one of my other dreams always was to combine work with travel. I love to travel. It's one of my passions. It's one of the things that fuels me and energizes me. And so I started talking to you about the possibility of becoming a trainer and traveling to hopefully different countries. But that seemed like such a distant goal. But again, you encouraged me and just helped me think through different scenarios. And over time, I have had opportunities and frankly, in most instances, created opportunities to present trainings. I've now presented trainings in several different communities. I went back to my native country of South Africa, very, very interested in getting collaborative practice started there, presented at a conference, and that's a project that's incubating, and I'm determined to see that through. Hopefully that will work. As I started doing more collaborative work, I became increasingly aware of the natural fit collaborative law provides for working with LGBT clients. And there's so many reasons for that, but those of us who practice in the field of LGBT law, first of all, it changes constantly. But by and large, the legal system is woefully inadequate to provide protections, to provide structure and rights and responsibilities for gay lesbian couples. And it's very frustrating, really, to practice in that area in so many ways because the court system has very few answers and often incredibly unjust outcomes. For example, if two women have a child, one is the biological parent, one is not, and if they don't do a second parent adoption or they live in a state where the other parent cannot legally become a parent through adoption, the biological parent, when they separate, can simply take the child and refuse to have the other mother ever have contact with that child again. And it's those kinds of outcomes and those kinds of heartbreaks that led me to become very convinced that collaborative practice and LGBT practice were made for each other. Since that time, I have presented 2 trainings in New York City specifically focused on LGBT issues and collaborative law. There's actually a practice group there. I think it's the only one in the United States that is a LGBT-focused collaborative law practice group. And we've also presented on this issue in Canada, in Niagara Falls. A few of us were part of that. And I'm also working on presentations to existing practice groups, advanced training for existing collaborative law practitioners, to learn more about LGBT practice. What is it like to be in a situation where your legal options are so limited? And how we as collaborative practitioners can help clients move out of the legal paradigm and come up with a creative solution that honors relationships rather than one person who has the legal power using it as a weapon to disenfranchise the other person and to really deny the relationship. So I'm very committed to this happening, and for this reason have every year put together a workshop at the IACP, and will continue to do so. And next year in March I'll be presenting in Westchester County to the group there, also putting together some other programs of this nature. And I think there are bridges that need to be built in both directions. On the one hand, a lot of experienced collaborative practitioners really don't have a lot of experience working with gay and lesbian clients and gay and lesbian couples or transgender people. And one of the important things I think that we need to get across to people is you cannot treat a gay or lesbian couple the same way as a married couple, in the sense that you cannot make the same assumptions about their relationship, about their support system, about how they view their relationship, and then certainly not about what their legal rights are. So there's a question of becoming familiar enough with the substance of this area where we can really be helpful to people and know what the issues are and help them be creative. It's essential, I think, to work with very competent financial professionals when you're working with LGBT clients, because the tax issues in particular and other financial planning issues are hugely complex. A lot of the protections and tools we have for planning are just not available. And also, because you often have this situation where there's a complete power imbalance, it's really important to have a coach, a mental health professional or other coach, to help remind people why they are there, and that they are there to respect their relationship and come apart in a respectful way, even though one of them could walk out the door and have all the power and then the other person destitute. So I think it's also particularly important in these cases to work on a team model and involve professionals. So that means training professionals, experienced collaborative professionals. And then there are a lot of us who practice in the LGBT area. It's very interesting. When I first started doing this work 22 years ago, I basically was making it up. I put on workshops in the community for same-sex couples and what protections you could put into place. There were certain things you could do, like make a will or do a healthcare proxy. I started drafting domestic partnership agreements for people. There was no legal recognition in New York, in the state I practice in, and still there's only one area where that terminology is even used in a statute. But I just saw this need and wanted to start creating some tools and some ways to at least provide some protection for people and educate them about what the risks and pitfalls were. Now it's a hopping field. There are changes every single day. There's legislation, there are court cases, and it's really an incredibly exciting time to be involved in this field. And so many of us who are doing what I was doing in isolation in our own communities are now connected to each other, learning from each other. And we have a lot to offer, I think, to collaborative lawyers who are interested in working in this field. And collaborative lawyers have a lot to offer to LGBT lawyers who are maybe not familiar with collaborative law and don't have that in their toolbox to help deal with our clients. And I'm very happy, maybe it's just because I got tired of my incessant harassment and nagging, but several of my colleagues in the LGBT field who meet annually as the National Family Law Advisory Council at NCLR, which is the National Center for Lesbian Rights, have now become trained in collaborative law. And I've actually gone to Alaska twice to provide training for a group. One of my colleagues in this group is from Alaska, and I had been after her, and she was pretty convinced of the merit of collaborative practice. But then she threw out what she thought was a rhetorical question. She said, but who would come to Alaska to train us? And I said, I will. And at first she wasn't sure I was serious, but then I contacted Sue Brunsting, and the two of us have been to Alaska twice to train a group there, and it's just wonderful. At this IACP conference, 6 people from Alaska attended. So it's amazing to see how the practice of collaborative law can really spread, and how if you build those bridges between people who have different competencies to offer, how we can really expand the populations we serve. One model that one of the people I trained who lives in the Bay Area has used in collaborative practice is teaming an experienced LGBT lawyer who is new to collaborative practice with an experienced collaborative lawyer, so that they can each bring their competencies to the table and help each other, as we can do in collaborative practice, but to make sure that the expertise that is needed in this very complex field is there, and then they can help people reach a resolution that way. And hearing about things like that happening, it's so gratifying to know that those bridges are being built, and I'm just committed to continue doing that work